Hello, good morning. My name is Jeff Dalton. I'm an assistant professor. A little bit of feedback there, sorry. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Glasgow. It's my pleasure to be able to kick off with an opening keynote here at the European Chatbot Summit. It's my first conference in a while, and I hope it's yours as well, so I look forward to being able to meet you all in person. So a little bit about me and my background. Where I come from is I did my PhD in information retrieval in search technology. So I studied how we could use large-scale knowledge graphs, information about the world, and make search smarter to give it information to be able to help us accomplish more complex tasks. And now I'm trying to do the same thing for information assistance. So after I did my PhD, I went to Google. I worked on the knowledge discovery team. I helped work on information extraction, probabilistic knowledge graphs, the knowledge vault, and deploy those in search. So if you go to Google and you say, I've got some gunk in my eye, or you search for some medical queries, hopefully the results aren't quite as scary, because now you're getting results from doctors, and the search can actually understand you and understand a little bit about the world and about medicine. And after that, I worked on the Google Assistant. So I was there when they launched the Google Home. So I worked on the NLP team, kind of response ranking, working on some of the fundamental algorithms for the future of what we're working on with the Google Assistant. So I've worked on these in industry, I've shipped these to millions of people, and I've worked on it from an academic perspective. And so we'll be talking a little bit about where we're headed for the future of assistance in practice. So I'll bet everyone in this room has some notion of what assistance means and what we want from our assistants. What I'm going to ask for you is to think about genuine assistance. Think back when you needed help and what you would like from, not just from a virtual assistant, but also from a person. So recall the last time that you had general assistance, that you needed help, and even if that was maybe the last time that maybe your mom and dad were helping you put on clothes when you were a kid. And so I'm going to walk you through a time when I needed some help. So I recently have a young child. His name is Aiden. He's now almost 6 months old. And we took him to Michigan to see the grandparents. And so this is him. He got to experience cold for the first time. He got to experience snow angels and have a little bit of fun. And it was great to see parents, grandparents, and catch up with some family that we hadn't been able to because of COVID. But as you perhaps can guess, Michigan in the winter is fraught with lots of snow and ice, and that can cause lots of chaos and travel problems. We're experienced travel planners. We planned for this. We got to the airport really early. We got the first flight of the day, even if that meant waking up really early before kind of the crack of dawn, driving through the snow and the ice, and getting there so that if something did go wrong, we were ready for it. So we get to the airport. Everything's looking great. We're checked in. And we get to the gate, and our plane's delayed. The weather was great where we were, but in Chicago, the runway was closed because of wind and ice. So things are going wrong. But it's not too bad. The flight's delayed. Eventually, we get on the plane, and we're about to take off. And then there's a mechanical problem. So things have gone from bad to worse. So now we have to get off the plane. They deboard us, and we all know now that we're going to miss all of our connections. So all of us immediately get into a giant queue of 100 people with 2 people there trying to be able to rebook all of us. And there's no plane because it's a small airport. And so what they're going to do is they're going to fly a plane across the country to come and pick us up. So from Baltimore through a snowstorm to be able to come and get us. And so that was a really challenging environment, that challenging task where I really needed help. So I did what we all do. I turned to my phone, started looking at alternatives. Do we drive? What are the alternatives? What flights are happening? But as perhaps if you are aware, Google Assistant wasn't very helpful, right? That didn't help me do very much. But search, lots of what we did through that was able to find information. And we'll talk a little bit about how that story turned out later in the talk. But the assistant should have done a lot more. It knew my itinerary. It had my email. It knew where I was going. It had all that information to be able to see that. Ideally, it would also have been able to see the fact that I was in a queue that wasn't moving, the fact that it would have actually had a plan ready in case there were weather delays. And ideally, it would also be able to know that I hadn't slept in a couple of days. So maybe I should talk a little bit slower and walk through some information, kind of sleep deprivation. So I hope you've thought a little bit about what some of the different tasks are. That's just one example. So here are a couple others that I came up with: everyday tasks and large scale, small scale. Help, my dryer won't turn on. I have to replace a part. My son hasn't pooed in 4 days, the pleasures of being a parent. help me cook a dinner for John's birthday party, a small gathering of 25 people, and help me plan a conference, or help me give this talk that's coming up. And the assistance matters, and this information matters, because it's not just about performing these tasks and getting them done, but it's about the people and what they enable. So it's about my son have dry, warm clothes, clean diapers as well. It's about having him staying healthy and not having medical issues. It's about helping friends reconnect with each other after COVID and some difficult times. And it's about the community, just like we're able to get together here at ECS and upcoming at CUI as well. So it's about people and about helping each other and about how assistants can help us in that future. And to do this, I think I kind of abstracted 5 different elements of assistance that we're going to be talking through for the key elements of the information. So the tasks and assistance matter because it's not just about being able to, thank you. So these are the 5 elements. So first is, and this is roughly in descending order of difficulty. So the first one is knowledge. Knowledge about the task, knowledge to be able to help me complete the task, and knowledge about me and the information that I need. Modality, talking, speaking, looking at me, meeting where I'm at with what I need, whether it's on my phone, whether it's being able to see the audience around me, etc. Being proactive, being able to think a step ahead and reach out. You might want to consider alternatives because it looks like Chicago might have some problems. To be able to adaptive plan, to be able to reroute me and reroute me to different airports, to be able to change the plan on the fly in real time. And also to be empathetic. You sound tired, let's do it a different way, right? Or maybe we can't drive. So we're reasonably good we're starting to get better at number 1. We're starting to be able to elicit our task. We're starting to be able to use and accomplish some of these tasks using knowledge and the context that we have from AI. But we're really, as we go down some of this list, it's getting harder and harder. We can start to work with modalities, but once we get into planning and proactivity, and the last one in particular is something that we're quite bad at, is empathetic systems. And that's something we'll maybe talk about later as well. So what I'm going to argue in this talk, that through all of these, that search is fundamental assistance. So there's an old joke that there's only 2 problems in AI. One is search, and the other one is, I don't remember, you'll have to search for it, okay? So throughout all of these 5 things, search is fundamental. You have to find the right information, you have to find the right people, you have to find similar information across lots of information types, you have to find information across modalities, text, image search, and you have to gather them together to present them to the right people at the right time. So we often see pictures like this, looking at the landscape of where we are, kind of quantifying the capabilities of the assistants in very simple terms. What we can do with them, the kinds of tasks that we can accomplish with them, and conversation length. You notice that this is actually very different from the 5 elements that I just talked about. It doesn't capture any of these. Conversation length was not one of the elements of assistance that I talked about. And if you think about these, you'll actually see that this is a very simplistic view. It's too simplistic. If you look at the future of proactive assistants that can understand us, that can empathize with us, we realize that we're really far away. If I could make this slide much bigger, it would actually be 2 or 3 kind of steps away, kind of miles away. But I'm going to argue, in this case, that the future of the search assistants is about the future of search, enabling search and language models and new language understanding that's emerging right now based upon neural models. So let's talk about what's happening in the field. Perhaps you've seen something like this. You've perhaps heard of large-scale neural models. Deep learning is fundamentally changing our field and changing it very rapidly. It's the basis for a lot of the chatbots and a lot of the systems that are being built at Google and the other major tech companies, whether that's Google's Mina, Google's Lambda, Facebook's BlenderBot, or Facebook's Assistant. Underpinning all of these is their understanding of language. And what's exciting is the fact that this is a new Moore's law. The size of these models is doubling about every 2 years. So maybe you've used GPT-3 or heard of GPT-3. We use it for generating some synthetic data for training our agents. And GPT-4 is expected to come out this year, and it will have trillions of parameters. Right? So these models are very good at language understanding. They're memorizing words, just kind of filling in the blank. But at the end of the day, they're just language models. So they're very simplistic. They're very good at memorizing information, but they don't really understand it. They don't really are able to really do very much with it. And it's very hard to update them. So we're going to need to take these language models and do something a little bit differently. So I'm going to argue that these language models, we need to go just from filling in the blank, that they need to be search-enabled. So this is some recent research from DeepMind, improving language models from retrieving from trillions of tokens. So instead of just teaching the model to fill in the blank, it was teaching the models to search, to retrieve information from the large information corpus as it was reading the web. And this was called retro. This was some new research that just came out. And when we have these models, we're teaching them to engage with search, to be able to be more effective. So this is some more research from Facebook, from Meta, looking at question answering. So the state-of-the-art question answering model is one that can take information from search, put it through a neural, deep generative model, and produce state-of-the-art results to answer your questions. And so search underpins these. Notions of similarity and retrieval are really the future and the foundations of the current chatbots and the future of the chatbots and assistants. I'm now going to take you back in time with some of our hands-on experience with some of these. So this is work that we did with Monzo in some of the, now a couple of years ago. And what we were working on is, at the time, Monzo was a relatively small company. They were focusing on scaling their customer support. And so they had to go from, they went from just a few 100,000 users to suddenly millions of users. And that, as a result, support needed help. And what we were working with, Neil Lathia, the head of data science and AI, to work on incorporating this into the chat app, to meet users where they were, to give them the right information at the right time. This is actually pretty simple. So this approach here is simply searching over Monzo's knowledge base, curated by Monzo's editors. And you see here highlighted in orange some information in knowledge base articles that we've returned. We were able to help them at the time, which were very cutting-edge language models and neural ranking models, to be able to deploy this, and it was actually deployed in Monzo. We helped them do science and understand how the models worked and build evaluation and data sets and labels. But it was still really early days. These models worked sometimes, they didn't work in other situations. And what we really found is that in many cases, there needs to be initiative to be able to say, when should we search? When should we ask a question? What's the right way to interact with the user? And at the time, the models weren't very good at that. And we additionally have the fact that we have editors in the loop, constantly changing the knowledge base, maybe on a catch-all help article that seems to answer all of your questions, but that doesn't actually answer all the questions as specific as you want them to. So this has complex behavior. And so this really motivated us to start working on fundamentals of conversational search, to be able to take this and to be able to answer more fundamental questions, and to search beyond just going beyond a small knowledge base to doing it at scale. So I'm the lead organizer for the TREC conversational track, which is one of the leading benchmarks in conversational search. I've been running this since 2019 with partners at Microsoft AI, as well as partners at Carnegie Mellon University, and now that's growing. And the goal of this is to bring conversational search, to bring assistance to web scale. And so searching over massive collections of text, searching over the whole web, and be able to interact with it conversationally, to be able to talk to your search engine. So you can retrieve passages, and then you can talk about them, and it can actually understand what you mean, to be able to resolve those references, to understand long and complex text. So there's information there, trekcast.ai. There's also whole proceedings. You can read a lot about the details. I won't have time to go into a lot of the details here, but I want to give you some of the key highlights. So the first thing is that neural models, neural ranking models, neural query understanding models have really fundamentally changed this field. So we can now do things that we weren't capable of just 3 or 4 years ago. So we've also had principled evaluation, because evaluating conversational search and conversational AI is really hard. And we're working with leaders at NIST to be able to do so. One really surprising finding is the fact that we were able to train these models with very actually small amounts of data. So we thought when we started we would need massive amounts of labeled data. We'd have to train query writing with thousands or hundreds of thousands of examples. It turns out that with the new language models, we were able to do it with just a couple hundred. Just the small labels that we were able to create with just a handful of us organizers, we were able to create state-of-the-art models that actually worked really, really well. And we've also seen something that's been happening, kind of a transformation from just keyword search to vector-based search. So the mode of interacting with today's search systems is shifting from just keyword or keywordese to ones that are actually empowered by neural vectors that are generated from these language models. And so this now allows us to understand longer contexts, kind of 10 or 20 turns with long and complex kind of passages and document results in ways that we couldn't before. But let's go back to assistance. So I want to show you some really cutting-edge research. We went back and we looked at traditional dialogue state tracking models and rethought how they should work. We took some of the state-of-the-art models, TripPy, based upon neural language models, and looked at the issues that they were having. Because we wanted to take these and we wanted to scale them up, not just for 10 domains, but for all the domains, thousands of domains, and to be able to train a model that could work across all the domains that we have in the web. And so the way we went about this was search. Again, looking at retrieval, looking at what domains are similar to each other, what swaths are similar to each other, what value are similar, and baking this fundamentally into the model that we have there. So when the model is trained, it's able to know that taxis and trains are similar to each other, to be able to learn those values and share that information and knowledge in the training process. And the result is the fact that we have state-of-the-art results, that more robust kind of dialogue state tracking. And we can actually give the model new domains that it hasn't seen before and actually start to get scale and improvements. The caveat here, the zero-shot learning is still a long way off. The results still aren't very good, but we're making some rapid progress. And so this is a really kind of exciting work that we're working on. I also want to highlight perhaps one of the most exciting things that we're doing. I'm the faculty advisor for the LX Prize TaskBot Challenge, the University of the Grillbot team. And that's currently happening in the semifinals. And really this is exciting because it's the first conversational AI challenge that's about modalities. It's kind of spanning the different modalities. And what we're trying to do is have not just be able to chat, but where you can actually interact with images or video content. And so we're trying to encompass the first 4 of those different tasks. And this is still an ongoing challenge, so invite me back next year to see how it turns out. But I want to give you a little bit of a preview of what some of we're doing. So perhaps it's no surprise I'm talking about search, and search is at the heart of our approach. So we're using neural language understanding. Oh, sorry, I won't move. And what we see here is someone looking at desserts. So we have web scale task search. But then, to augment the conversation, we're pulling in external information, pulling in search, contextual knowledge about Bramley apples being in season, and search from stateful question answering, whole web scale search to be able to adapt and be able to make our system. And ideally, also, we're showing you an image of an apple pie, which is probably the best reason that you should probably make that recipe. So not just talking to you, but showing you, and showing you videos of how to instruct you in the process. So one really aspect thing that we're working on, one new thing that we're working on here is the fact that we're building a neural first and search first model. So we have a model that's not based upon rules, or at least not too many rules, I'll be honest. What the model is doing is learning the actions to take based upon interacting with the search systems. So it generates code, not rules, that our system can execute and that it can interact with external systems. And it's natural language, kind of code generation brought to assistance for the first time. So I'm not going to go into details of how that works, but again, invite me back and just come talk to me, and I'm happy to tell more about it. And this is really the first step towards the future. We need assistants that can see. The assistants are going to be with us, to be able to have rich sensing, and the language models we have that go with it are also kind of following along. I'm running out of time, but I want to talk about the fact that this is a really exciting time. There's a very rich ecosystem that we have that's developing, that we have here at the European Chatbot Summit, that's not just kind of owned by Google or Facebook, but that we really want to have a vibrant ecosystem, open source tools, open standards, and that's something that I look forward to talking to you more about, partnering to make this vision a reality, and incorporate search throughout all of it. So I'd like to just conclude by saying that things ended well in our journey. So we stood in line, we eventually got to the line, in front of the line, and the human assistant went above and beyond. They were really helpful. They guided us through step by step all the alternatives were. They were really patient with us, and they did more for us than actually they needed to do. So that was something that Southwest is really known for, and that was really exemplary. We walked away after standing 3 hours in line, happy that we stood 3 hours in line. So if you can tell that with the chatbot, I think you can tell that we probably have a little bit of a ways to go. And along the way, we were also able to have time to hop and get a craft beer at the pub before we got on our plane. So things worked out really well. My son was happy, and I was happy. And really, my lab and our research is about enabling and empowering people to understand the world and helping them to effect change to make it a better place and to make everyone's lives better. So this is not just me, it's my whole lab, a group of researchers. One of them is back in the back there helping out Paul, the Alexa team. Please go to our website, read more about our research and our publications and papers. And I want to leave you with the fact that I haven't talked about the fifth one. The fifth one is really hard, empathy. There's someone better to do that than I am. So Professor Alessandro Vinciarelli, who's at the University of Glasgow, he's a professor. In his talk, he's going to be talking about going beyond keywords, and that's happening tomorrow afternoon. And we're working on this with a cross-interdisciplinary team at the University of Glasgow with the social CDT. That's also looking for partners. Please partner with us to help build the future of this. Come back for CUI as well. That's going to be happening in Glasgow in July. There's still time for you to get your papers in. Deadline's in April as well, and there's SIGDIAL happening here in Edinburgh. So that's it. I want to just say that this is work with a great group of partners from the Alan Turing Institute, the BBC, Monzo, and many others for some of our research. And please invite us. We're happy to talk to you. We're really working on open systems and the work that we're doing with Alexa, open search models, open neural models to help us be able to transform the experiences and transform where our field is going. So thank you very much, and I'm not sure if we have time for any questions.